Dankeschön, dass du hier bist.
Gern geschehen, das freut mich sehr.
Und seit langem haben wir uns nicht gesehen, aber jetzt im Palast ist doch wirklich etwas.
Das ist was ganz Besonderes hier heute, ja. Das ist wirklich besonders.
Thank you for being with us today and for helping us understand the relationship that Hawaii had with the international community, as Consular Corps. Please help us understand a little more about what it is you do.
I am a member of the Consular Corps of Hawaiʻi, an organization that has existed for almost 200 years in Hawaii. It is a meeting and organizational group that helps consuls do their job in Hawaii. We regularly meet at least 12 times a year, probably more, and we try to tackle current affairs, but we also deal with our day-to-day operations issues.
And day-to-day operations means?
So we all do various degrees of the same thing. In my case, I issue passports for German nationals that live in Hawaii, emergency passports. I process biometric passports. We do all the documents that Germans need to execute their will or a purchase agreement, and they need a formalized signature under there, notarized signature. And I think that's probably, to one degree or another, the same for all active consuls in Hawaii. We're the mediators between things that happen here in Hawaii and that need to be legally enshrined, so to say, back in our sending nations.
Well, and your role as former dean, of course, representing the Corps, is significant, particularly as the German Honorary Consul, because of the relationship that the monarchy had with Germany.
Yeah, that is a very special relationship, and not many people actually know how special it is. I think it is noteworthy that two cities in Germany had a friendship and cooperation contract with Hawaii, and that's Bremen and Hamburg. Back then, Germany was not united, so both cities had independent contracts with the Hawaiian monarchy. And when Germany was united under the Kaiser, this friendship contract was then extended and became the German Kaiserreich and the Hawaiian monarchy or kingdom. And this contract resides right across the street. It's in a big purple binder, and in beautiful lettering describes that every Hawaiian can settle in Germany and every German can settle in Hawaii.
Is it still existing?
Nope. The Kaiserreich does not exist anymore, and neither does
the kingdom.
Well, so it's null and void, unfortunately, and but it's a beautiful document, and it was executed to recognize Hawaii in one way, and in another to also see to it that the existing relationships between Hawaii and Germany would be supported. As you know, before 1917, German companies were quite strong in Hawaii, and they were mainly from Bremen and Hamburg.
So tell us a little bit more about those German companies so that we can...
Oh, okay. That's my favorite pet peeve. So there's the biggest one of them was Hackfeld and Co., which was located where you now have the Topa Towers. There was a big, beautiful building that then later on became the American Factors building. AmFac, exactly. And Hackfeld was as the name indicates, was a factoring company. So they did back end for sugarcane manufacturers, agricultural businesses. So they paid all the bills, raked in all the money, and organized shipping. And they became very big with this. Then there was Ehlers, who later turned into Liberty House, and numerous others, too many to mention, that were mostly in sugarcane and shipping.
You know, we don't always remember at all, or maybe some of the young ones even haven't been taught, that Hawaii's place in the world was significant. Here we are in the middle of the Pacific, but with relationships with more than a dozen countries.
And I think that's still represented today. We have 35 active consuls, 10 emeritus, and 25 associate members. not every state in the United States can say that they have a consular corps of that size and magnitude. We have 6 professional consulates here. The Japanese consulate is 40 people strong. That's pretty sizable. That's bigger than the German consulate in San Francisco or ʻIolani. If you go back in history, this location in the middle of the Pacific has always been significant, and it still is. So it's fun to be a part of this group, the Consular Corps, because it has so much variety. We have people from all continents, except for Africa, unfortunately, unless you count Morocco, which we do have. It is a place where people come together, and I think that's the name of this island, isn't it? The gathering place.
I think it was the vision of the Queen for all of Hawaii to be a place where we could gather and be included. And you had said earlier in a conversation that Hawaii was a light.
I can't speak for the entire continent of Europe, but I can definitely say for Germany that Hawaii had a very special place and has a very special place in the hearts of the people. I think a lot of people projected dreams and visions into the most beautiful way you could spend your life into the Hawaiian Islands. And even today, you will find that many of the visitors appreciate these islands more than they would other places.
And you take visitors here to help them understand not only the history, but the place that Hawaii has in the world.
I do take foreign dignitaries to the palace because I want them to know what Hawaii was and where Hawaii comes from. A lot of German officials do not know that there was once a formidable kingdom with a palace and with monarchs and what we call a Hofstaat, a court, a royal court. And this is very important for them to see, and I do make sure they do.
What's the vision of the role that the Consular Corps will play in Hawaii?
So first of all, it is a meeting place for us to discuss and work on current affairs issues, to deal as a group with things that impact us as foreign dignitaries. It is also an organization that has some ability to bring topics onto the plate, give them a little bit more room than otherwise possible. And because we are also tapped into a lot of other organizations that play a big role in Hawaii, we can invite dignitaries from other groups and sort of set topics the way we think is appropriate.
The Queen had a very special relationship with Henry Berger. How does that play out now?
Interestingly enough, the mayor of Coswick, which is the town that Henry Berger came from, the composer and band leader of the Royal Hawaiian Band, and as you know, he was invited by the king to come here and set up a band that exists to this day, the Royal Hawaiian Band. So the mayor came to see if there was room for a partnership between Honolulu and Coswick. Coswick still has a music school, and Henry Berger is very well known in Coswick. He's one of their foremost citizens. So he reached out to then Mayor Kirk Caldwell to see if it's possible, and I think they're working on it to see if that link can be put back into life.
So as we wrap up our conversation for today, looking at Hawaii having a place in the world as Hawaii.
I'm always most impressed with Nainoa Thompson's depiction. He always says, Hawaii is the torch of the world, the torchlight. It shines a beacon to where we should be going. And I think he is so right about that. Hawaii really is the place where everybody can exist the way they came. Hawaii does not force you to become somebody else. And I think as such, this community here is very special in the world. And I can say that because I've lived in several places, and it is a model for the outside.
Vielen Dank für Ihre Zeit, für Ihr Herz und viel Aloha.
Oh, vielen Dank.
Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for listening to my conversation with Denis Salle, Honorary Consul of Germany.